So we've got the 944 back in the garage. Things got a little bit crazy. My daughter, I wanted to have this built before my daughter got here, and she arrived about 2 weeks early, so I kind of took the time that I set aside. It was crazy getting into things like diaper changes, no sleep, getting adjusted to all of that. So now that things are kind of settled down a little bit, I'm going to start diving into this car. I need to do a basic tune-up on it. We've got things like oil change that needs to be done, plugs, a new air filter. There's the window relay. The windows weren't going up and down, so we're going to check that out. And just get it all kind of tuned up here and see how it's doing, kind of baseline it before we do any of the other modifications. So let's get this thing up in the air and get started. All right, so the 944 is up off the ground. Note to anybody else who's doing this, there's actually a center jack pad. I should have checked the manual, the Haynes manual that I have on this, right in the middle of the car so you can do it side by side. I realized that after I got the fronts up, I just jacked on the frame rails like I normally would with any other car. And I realized that there was an easier way to do it. So if you're doing it, definitely jack on that center jack pad and do each side at a time. It's also safer than what I did. I should have taken everything back out, dropped it down, and then done it side by side. But I kind of just three-wheeled it and got it up there by using that center jack pad on each side. So definitely don't do what I did. For the oil change, we're going to be using Castrol GTX 20W50. That's what a lot of the guys are running in their track 944s. I think it does well with the heat. It's also tested down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It should be fine. This car doesn't get run. I wouldn't run it below 32 degrees, below freezing with something this kind of heavyweight. But it really doesn't get run at anything below 45, 50 degrees at the coolest kind of summer evenings type temperature. So we're gonna get the hood open and get underneath this thing and get started. The filter that we're using is a K&N HP4001. It's just the cross-reference one for this car. It was the only one that was in stock around. I'd rather use like a factory spec one, but since this was close by and available to do this, it's what I picked up. So that's what we're going to be using for a filter. I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, but I got underneath the car and I was starting to line up. I was going to line up the pan and check what the size on the drain plug is here. It looks to be about a 15 millimeter, but this plug itself is gacked. At some point, somebody really tightened it on there, and definitely got a little bent coming off. So I have another one on order. My buddy with the European shop is gonna try and get one same day for me tomorrow. It's kind of in the evening now. So I'm still gonna line everything up. I'm gonna get the basically my catch can for all the oil under here and get that all lined up. And then I'm gonna wait. We'll go and do some of the other maintenance stuff while I'm waiting on getting that. All right, so it's actually a couple of days later, and I had to take some time, have some stuff going on with the baby, so we're just getting back into the 944. We're gonna finish up that oil change. I did grab a new drain plug, which is magnetic, which is fantastic, and some new washers, so we're gonna get that going. We're gonna drain it, take off the oil filter, which is right down here, replace that, and then we'll continue on with the tune-up. All right, so just taking a quick look at the plug. It is magnetic. I don't see any metal bits in there, which is good. Everything looks good with that. The crush washers that I got are the wrong size, so unfortunately we're going to be reusing this one that's on here, but that's okay. Should hold fine. But as you can see, like I talked about, this is just completely gacked down here. This the actual head of the drain bolt. So gonna pop the new one in and get moving. As you can see, the oil filter right down here. See in there past the power steering fluid reservoir. We're gonna pull this out and replace it with the new unit. All right, so as you can see, removing the oil filter made a pretty big mess. We're gonna take the drain plug, the new drain plug with the old crush washer on it, unfortunately, and get it, screwed into the oil pan. So when we fill it up, don't make a huge mess. So the oil change done, battery's dead from sitting, so I'm gonna stick it on a trickle charger, but first we're gonna do the air filter, the spark plugs, we'll make sure those are gapped up, and then we'll get it started and check for leaks. So yeah, next up, air filter. Alright, so to get the air filter out, there's 5 Phillips heads and this hose clamp here, and then I should be able to pull this entire unit off. There's a little hose that sneaks into the fender, which is cool. It's actually functional, as opposed to like, a lot of people put cone filters right here, just hot air intakes. We don't need anything like that. So yeah, we're gonna take these 5 screws out and then we will pull the air filter out. Let's get started. Alright, it's the air filter out. Definitely has been replaced. I mean, it's not in brand new shape. It's definitely dirty. Glad we're replacing it. But a little bit bent up too. But yeah, it's good to know that somebody was trying to maintain this at some point too. Awesome. Let's put the new one in. And I'm just doing a quick compare before I put them in the car, side by side. They look to be the exact same size and shape. I'm sure it's standard, you know, Volkswagens of the era probably use the same air filter that this does. Yeah, so it shouldn't be too bad. Everything looks good. We'll pop it in here and close everything back up. That's the new air filter done. With that out of the way, let's move on to spark plugs. Okay, so here we have basically the ignition timing. It looks like basically a distributor driven off the camshaft. It might not be exactly a distributor, but roughly that idea. And the spark all goes into these, you know, down the spark plug wires and into the head right here. You can see the plug wires are high temp. They're factory quality, you know, made in Germany, really good plug wires. So I'm going to leave those on for now. I kind of did a once over and I don't see anything going on with them. But we are going to do the plugs. So I'm going to pull off all of these 4 wires on top of the plugs and then gap the plugs and stick them right in. All right, let's get started. So we've got our spark plugs here, and this is our gapping tool. The way a gap tool works for spark plugs is you insert the spark plug at the far end where this gap is the smallest, and you drag it up along the tool, and as you do that, it will increase to the gap number listed on the tool itself. So for our car, the gap is 0.028 to 0.32, which is about right here. I'll probably leave it at 0.028, that's what most folks are running, but if I was looking for more aggressive ignition, I guess I could gap it a little bit more. So I'm going to pull each one of these out and check the gap and make sure it's in line. You'll also notice I put on some fresh gloves, and I did that because anytime I'm working with anything electronic, I tend to try to not get it too oily and too greasy. We just did that oil change, so I wanted to make sure I had fresh gloves on. Let's go here, check this gap, slide in at 0.02. Looks to be gapped right at about 0.028, 0.30, so that's perfect. You could always, if you notice it was a little overgapped, you could bend it down. You can use the tool or your hand, just bend it down and then re-gap it. It's not great for it, but it should be okay. Alrighty, so that is all 4 with the gap set. Should be perfect to go in the car. So let's go pull the old ones out so we can put these new ones in. I'm actually going to do 2 at a time just because the clearance with the intake manifold is a little bit tight. So as I'm pulling this second cylinder out, I kind of have to hang it over the third cylinder. So we'll do the first 2 plugs, put everything back on, and then do the second 2 plugs. So I just grabbed a spark plug socket. You can see they're made for different sizes depending on the spark plug. This one fits this particular spark plug. But inside of it, there is like a rubber grommet where the actual bottom of this will be seated to kind of hold it so you can grab it. And it's also the right, you know, size to loosen and tighten the spark plug in the cylinder. I'm probably not going to tighten it to a spec. I usually go hand tight plus a quarter turn, and that seems to work fine. So I'm going to pop these 2 out and put 2 new ones in. These are Bosch as well. These are also a good quality plug, so I'm glad somebody was maintaining this with the right stuff. It looks to be the exact same as what I have, just Bosch. It's probably done in a factory. They do look to be old. They're definitely dated, but this car hasn't been run a lot in the last few years, so. All right, let's get the new one in there. What I'm finding with this particular spark plug socket is that that rubber grommet will help you put in the spark plug and take out the spark plug. It kind of grabs it so you can set it in the thread straight. It's a little shallow, so it's not quite working for me. So I just kind of tightened it by hand just to get the thread started, because the one thing you don't want to gack is spark plug threads. So yeah, to start it by hand, I'm going to use the ratchet for the rest. go. 2 done, 2 left to go. You can see these clearances in here get a little bit tight. You see the spark plug down here. The other one down here, so it gets a little bit tricky to get in there, but we'll get it done. That's it. That's the last 2 cylinders done, so the spark plug's done. Next we need to do the window relay, and that's it for the tune-up. Finally making some progress. All right, so here is the new window relay for the 944. So let's open the relay box and take a look and see if we can find and replace this relay. And what's cool about this, something I love to see in a car, a couple of things actually. The first of which is that it comes with a diagram for each of the relays and each of the fuses, which is nice. It comes with some spare fuses. And I've actually never seen this before. Come over here and take a look at this. It may be common in some makes and models and I just don't know about it. But inside this relay box, you actually see there's a tester. So right here you can stick, or fuse box, excuse me, you can stick a relay into this tester and see if the, stick a fuse into this tester and see if the fuse is working. So it's kind of a neat little feature. So I'm not sure how well you can see this diagram there, but if you look at G7, we have a window winder, and that's the relay for that. So we're gonna pull that relay out and see if it matches the relay we've got here. So if I come over to the fuse box, you can see, let's take a look here. This guy here is G7, this one right here. So we're gonna pull this out. It only fits one way, but just being mindful of the way it came out. It's an actual German one, which is nice. They are NLA though, so we have this one. The pattern appears, get that down there a little bit, the pattern appears to be the same. So let me get some light on this. Jesus. And take a look at the bottoms here. So they should be pretty much the same, and they are. If you look at them like this and like this, they should work the same voltage, everything like that. So we're going to replace this relay and see if it solves our window problem. And boom, there is the new window relay installed. It's not the fuse and it wasn't the relay, so I have to spend some time tracking that one down. Should be fun. All right, so that's it for the tune-up. We finished up the oil change. Didn't quite go as planned. I wanted to replace the oil drain plug, but no dice, wrong threads, even though it was the right part number. And the crush washers were the wrong size. Sometimes that's just how it goes. Oil filter went on okay, no issues there, so no huge complaints. Plugs, which I thought were gonna be worse. If you look under that intake manifold, there's so much going on a 944. It's bananas, so I thought they might be a little bit harder to get to, but they weren't too bad. You know, just kind of angled up over the left fender and it wasn't bad at all. Air filter, that's, I mean, typically easy peasy, you know, right there. It was a handful of screws and just sliding the box open and switching out the air filter. So glad it's been done. That one was dirty, but I was also glad it was definitely replaced at some point. So somebody cared, which is always good. And then we've got the window relay. So that is replaced. It's also not working. What I'm gonna do there, I found out, I've done the relay and I've checked the fuse, they're both fine. What I found out is that the switch for the driver's side is wired in succession with the passenger window. So the passenger window switch. So I'm going to check and make sure that wires haven't come loose. Maybe I hit a bump hard or something like that. Maybe a mouse got in there and chewed on it. I'm going to pull that switch out, check the back of it, try and maybe use a multimeter to figure out what's going on with it, clean up any contacts and put it back together, see if I can get it working. So it was good to rule it out. It was a $10 part, so it's not the end of the world that I spent the money. In the future, I would probably use a voltmeter to see if I can hear the switch inside the relay opening and closing. Would have been smart. I just ordered it because I was getting a handful of stuff. And we also threw it up on the trickle charger, right? So we were able to get it started and check things out. And everything's looking good. So next time, we're going to start with the coilovers. I'm going to blast the 4 wheels off, go around, lube everything up. We'll do the front coilovers, then we'll do the rears. As far as I'm aware, the coilovers are meant to work with the kind of the torsion beams or the torsion bars in the rear. So we should be okay there, but we'll work on dialing that in. We'll install it, we'll kind of get a rough ride height, then we'll start to dial the ride height in, and that way we can put the wheels and tires on it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. As always, thanks for watching. Tune in next time as I overhaul the 944. If you've got a second, hit that like and subscribe button below. It would really help me out.